All right, everyone. Remember yesterday when I reported on Michael Flynn in the morning and I said, well, Flynn isn't Trump, so once again, Michael Flynn is fucked maybe, just like Paul Manafort is fucked. But Donald Trump is, there's nothing wrong as far as he's concerned because he himself is not Michael Flynn. Then, he was getting basically hauled in, indicted because he lied to the FBI, but it wasn't exactly clear that any wrongdoing extended beyond him alone. Brian Ross, ABC, comes out, the same day. Oh, yeah, we've got a source close to the investigation, and he's going to cooperate with the FBI and indicate that Trump and others associated with him were commanding him to talk to the Russians. Oh, no, it's collusion. He's going to get impeached. Stock market begins to crumble. I'm sitting there laughing my ass off because I'm like, this is legacy media. I don't believe this report. And so I didn't bother to talk about that because I'm like, who fucking cares? Even according to the details in the documents themselves, released by the FBI, there's no evidence of collusion. The only evidence there is hey, Trump mentioned something to Flynn, commanded him to talk to the Russians at some point. It turns out, and ABC has to issue a correction. And pretty soon, none of the anti-Trumpers want to talk about the issue anymore because they got hoodwinked by ABC News. They shot themselves in the foot. They kicked themselves in the ass, so to speak. None of them want to talk about it now. I wonder why. It turns out it was Trump asking Flynn during the campaign to talk to them in a diplomatic sense. Obama did this. There's footage of Obama saying, oh yeah, after the election you'll have more flexibility. That's because people who are campaigning for an office that involves significant amounts of diplomacy should talk to foreign heads of state. They should talk to people representing foreign nations. Look, I don't want somebody to be elected and not have some degree of familiarity with a few people around the world. But that doesn't indicate collusion. This is yet again them trying to lower the threshold of what is or is not improper for Trump to have done. Trump now can't even have done things that every other fucking president has done for the last 100 fucking years because it's evidence of collusion if it involves Russia. Nobody says a damn thing about him talking to 1,000 other diplomats. Nobody says a damn thing about him talking to a dozen other heads of state while he was candidate Trump, which he did. So did Hillary Clinton. Of course they did. They're supposed to. It's part of the fucking job. If they're not doing that, then these same people would be saying, well, Trump is reluctant to carry out one of his prime duties. He's obviously shitty. He's uninterested in diplomacy. He thinks he's so egotistical he won't even talk to foreign heads of state. That's exactly what they'd be casting this off as. So ABC issues a correction, says, oh yeah, we kind of got it wrong. Sorry, we almost collapsed the stock market, as half the population began to believe that Trump would be impeached and that President Pence was trending on Twitter for about an hour. Oh, I wonder why. Could it have been that Brian Ross made a shitty report and forgot to mention, hey, he was talking about diplomacy. It has nothing to do with the specific claims of collusion. It's not impeachable. It is in no realm of reality is it impeachable to say, well, Trump told Michael Flynn while he was campaigning and Flynn was part of the campaign, hey, I want you to go, talk some small talk diplomacy with the Russians. He's allowed to do that. He's perfectly allowed to do that. He can hold court with anybody he wants. He can't take money from them for his campaign. He can't make them, backroom promises. That's not what this is indicating. The assumption was made when the report was... What happened, I think, some staffer at ABC... I'm going to take a wild fucking... flying fuck at a rolling donut here and make an assumption about what probably occurred. One of Brian Ross's staff, who takes news tips, fed it to him out of context, and unfortunately got it a little bit wrong because they were probably hoping that it was more damning than it was, and they wanted Brian Ross to be the one to break the news to the whole world. Hey, oh goodness, I'm getting this tip from this person close to the investigation, to Mueller, whatever the hell. And they're saying basically, oh, well, Trump did talk to the Russians. Wow, he's going to get impeached. Wow, Brian, quick, you get a report on this. Slap something together extra quick. It'll be like, you'll win awards for this probably. You'll be the first one to break the news. Exclusive, tip comes in. Trump to be impeached because he talked to the Russians through Michael Flynn, who just got indicted, and he's going to be a songbird now. And all of the other people, it was funny. Once again, my prediction comes true. Because one of the beefs that I've had with some of the MAGA people is that they're really, really fickle. That includes some of you out there. I'm not going to name names, you know who you are, but don't you admit that sometimes you feel, I think, a little bit demoralized? You're like, oh, Trump won't accomplish anything. Meanwhile, the tax plan looks like it's going to pass because the Senate just okayed it 51-49, just so you know. He hasn't built the wall yet. He hasn't deported 10 million people, so he's a failure. He'll never get reelected. He'll get impeached. The establishment, the swamp is draining back. Something like that. People were saying the same thing with regards to this story. They were saying, well, of course it'll stick, because they're trying to screw Trump any way they can. And Flynn must be singing like a songbird right now. He'll tell all. He'll throw Trump under the bus. There's nothing to throw him under the bus about. No claim is being made of collusion here. Mueller's not coming out. The FBI's not coming out and saying, well, yeah, this is evidence of collusion. Don't you think that they would have held a press conference immediately if that were the case? If they really wanted, if there were an actual fair investigation and there were collusion, they would immediately come out and report it. So, the anti-Trumpers, they'll say, well, Mueller's compromised, when Trump never gets impeached because he never colluded with anybody. And the pro-Trumpers will say, well, it's the establishment making their attempts and, he's like outmaneuvering them or something. He doesn't have to. If he didn't collude with the Russians, he doesn't have to worry. It doesn't matter how many people close to him colluded with other states. If that were a problem, again, half our presidents probably would have been impeached and half the people in Congress wouldn't be there. In fact, most of them wouldn't be there. You realize that they take money and bribes and get blackmailed by foreign lobbies on a daily basis in Congress, correct? Well, then people shouldn't have a problem with that anyway. Even if Trump called up the Kremlin during the campaign, and I guarantee he didn't, but let's say he called him and said, "Hey, Vlad, I need a favor. I need you to fuck with some voting machines because it's too close to call in Michigan and Florida and a few others. So I need you to come in and buy some shit-posting Facebook ads." So, would it even matter? Long term, can anybody explain to me exactly how that would matter? I'm not seeing it. You see, the executive is one part of government. Not even really the most important part. If they don't have the consent of Congress, they can't do fucking anything, basically. If the courts, which they have been largely, and Congress both collude together in order to stop a president's agenda, there's really no workaround. Can't issue an executive order, can't get a law passed. So, yeah. It looks like all of the anti-Trump hype is dying down now because the report was false, basically. It's a lie by omission. They omitted the very, very, very important part, which, fleshes out the whole friggin' story, which is, oh yeah, this doesn't have to do with the claim of collusion. It's just a statement that he told Flynn to talk to the Russians diplomatically. That is not unlawful. Diplomacy is part of what an executive is supposed to do. You would be so upset if Trump were not talking to foreign leaders. Yeah, but there are a lot of people who seem to think that it would be a great idea if Trump just shut out Russia entirely, slapped more sanctions on him, and came out to the American people. I'm not going to talk to the Russians anymore. Fuck their diplomats. They should all get out. Yeah, and some of these people would probably think, oh, well, that's good. Yeah, no, that would be crazy. Indeed, that would be like, oh, well, let's go back. You're worried about, oh, Trump's taking us back to the past with evil white men and stuff like that. Too many white men in his cabinet or too many white male judges. So you're worried about, like, regressing back to the past, and yet you want to go back to the 1950s. Hell, maybe the 1940s is part of your platform is concerned. No, I don't work with those evil Russians. Yeah, we stopped liking Russia. They stopped being communists, say some of the leftists, I suppose. They stopped being far left enough for us, and they started being too religious. Even though we're embracing the Pope, but, that's orthodoxy, so they're heretics. I half expect the Democrats to come out and start chanting, the Templar chants or something. You're gone crazy. The Democratic Party is losing its fucking mind. Gillibrand and Biden and all these people are crazy. Look, they're intellectual frontrunner right now. I know this is a little bit of an aside in rant form. The most popular Democrat is not a Democrat. He's also going to be about 80 years old the next campaign around. He's also made it fairly clear, even though they don't want to admit it, he's not running. The most popular Democrat's not going to be able to save them. He probably won't even be physically able to campaign at that point. Who does that leave them with? Joe Biden, who infamously can't speak. a handful of upstarts within Congress who have no experience. How's that going to play well against Trump? Look, one of his great advantages during the campaign was, hey, I've never been a politician. Now the only thing he'll have been is a one-term president. So, that line's not going to work. Glass ceiling obviously didn't work. Racial wedge issue no longer works. Trump's got the upper hand when it comes to immigration, as well as taxation, it seems now. What exactly are you going to do to stop him? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter at this point, I think, even what happens in the midterms. The Democrats are making no real overture towards winning in 2020. They're making no real effort. You look like you're running around with your heads cut off. It's the funniest thing in the world because you kind of deserve it after the disaster that was Obama. The thing is, all the never-Trumpers, they were all like Bushites. They deserve to be out of office too. They were all like Bush-era idiots, like Mitt Romney fools and John McCain idiots. John McCain's still in there raising hell. It was a mayor. I wonder what they had to give him to get him to vote for the tax deal. I wonder what kind of bribe they had to give John McCain. So, I mean, he's probably not around much longer because he's got terminal cancer. Did they promise his kids or his wife a bundle of money? Like he cares about money? He's got hundreds of millions of dollars too. He's like Trump Jr. when it comes to money. I think he's got fucking, 7 homes? Mitt Romney and all these others that sat by and said nothing about the tax bill. I wonder what they bribed them with. Probably some piece of legislation to be announced. That's basically how things work in D.C. But poor Brian Ross. I mean, he breaks this report, and you can tell. You look at it, it's like, he's like, oh, very grave-faced. He wants to be like, he wants to be Tom Brokaw. And then it turns out that he got it totally wrong. Yeah, the big report that you were hoping to unleash, it basically means nothing now. In fact, it's a smear on your career because, remember, the legacy media is supposed to lie all the time, but they're not supposed to make it quite so obvious that they actually have to issue a correction. That takes it to a different level that usually they try to avoid. That's about all. Peace out.